The Plaith transmission echoed through the cold night of the planet Aresh. It wasn't sound, but light burning across the void, desperate, ragged, barely holding itself together. The voice that carried it trembled. Anyone, please. We are dying. They are taking everything. If there is anyone out there, we beg you, help us. The plea came from the Alari, a once proud species of artisans and builders. Now they were broken, their cities smoldering, their skies filled with smoke from the invaders' warships. The invaders called themselves the Karash, ruthless, efficient, a war-born empire that believed only in conquest. For months they had hammered Aresh, starving the Alari, tearing apart their defenses, enslaving survivors. And still the Alari resisted, hoping against hope that someone would hear their cry. But no one came. Not the coalition, not the distant Star Kings, not the neighbors who had once traded jewels and song with them. Everyone feared the Karash too much. Everyone, except the ones who weren't supposed to exist anymore. The Alari Council had gathered in their last stronghold, beneath the fractured crystal towers of Varen. Counselor Shale, feathers dulled by ash, leaned over the screen, her voice weak but defiant. We must send it again, she urged. Someone must hear. Who, Shale? An elder hissed. Who would come? The Karash crush every fleet. Every ally has abandoned us. Shale's gaze burned. Then perhaps those who are not allies, perhaps those who are dangerous. The room fell silent. Dangerous. It was a word whispered with unease in Alari halls. Because centuries ago, long before the Karash had risen, the Alari had heard stories of a species banished, feared, whispered about in the dark. A species called humans. No one had seen them in centuries. Some said they destroyed themselves. Others claimed they were exiled, locked away for crimes of war, for fire that burned too bright. But the legends were clear. If you begged them for mercy, they would come. And if you angered them, the stars themselves would shake. The council argued long into the night. And at last they agreed. The signal was sent not to friends, not to allies, but into the dark. Scattered along ancient relay lines where no sane people still listened. And far away, on a world forgotten by most maps, someone did. The human's name was Elias Voss. Once he had been a soldier in a war humanity had no right surviving. Now he was nothing more than a drifter, fixing old ships, trading scraps for food, trying to drink away the ghosts that haunted his sleep. He lived among the Marin, a gentle reptilian people who found his scars unsettling, but valued his hands. That could coax a dead engine back to life, that could patch broken metal with nothing more than stubbornness and wire. On the night of the transmission, he was in his workshop, staring at a half-burned engine core, when his receiver crackled. Please. Anyone. They are taking everything. The voice cut through the static, faint but unmistakable. Elias froze. He hadn't heard a distress signal in years, not since the last war, not since Earth fell silent. He replayed it. Once, twice. The voice trembled. With pain, with loss, something inside him stirred. Something he thought he had buried under ash and whiskey. The Marin elder, old Varik, shuffled into the workshop. His golden scales caught the dim light. You hear it too, Varik rasped. Elias didn't look at him. His eyes were locked on the screen. It's real, Elias muttered. Someone's begging for help. Varik laid a claw on his shoulder. Not your war, not your people. Elias almost laughed. He wanted to believe that. But the truth burned in his chest. They asked, he whispered. That makes it my problem. He stood, gathering tools, strapping on the worn armor he had sworn never to wear again. His ship, the Black Star, was old, scarred, barely spaceworthy. But so was he. Varik sighed, ancient eyes heavy with worry. You know the stories. If You go. You carry the name of your kind with you. The galaxy has not forgotten what humans are. Elias paused at the door, the signal still whispering through his receiver. Good, he said. Maybe they should remember. The black star roared into the night, following a ghost of a signal across the stars. And far above Aresh, the Karash warlord stirred in his throne of iron, sensing change. The most dangerous beings in the galaxy were coming. Asterisk, the arrival, the journey. Across the void was long silent and filled with ghosts. Elias sat strapped into the pilot's chair of the Black Star, watching the stars smear into lines as the old FTL drive groaned against its limits. The ship was as battered as its captain's scars. Across its hull, patches welded where holes had once been, engines whining like an old hound. But it still flew. It always flew. On the console, the signal pulsed faintly, guiding him like a heartbeat. Each time he replayed it, the desperation in the alien's voice grew sharper, cutting deeper into his chest. We beg you, help us. He had heard it before. Different voices, different wars. Families on burning colonies, soldiers bleeding in the mud, children crying under falling skies. He had lived through it, and he had buried it. Or so he thought. Now it was back. He rubbed at the scar running from his jaw down his neck. Never again, he muttered. That had been his promise when he left the war behind. But the galaxy didn't care about promises. The Black Star shuddered as the FTL drive disengaged, spitting him into real space. Before him lay harsh. It was beautiful, even in its suffering. Oceans the color of liquid sapphire, continents split by rivers of crystal that glowed faintly from orbit. Cities of spires and bridges stretched across canyons and cliffs, designed as though the builders had wanted to touch the heavens themselves. But much of it was burning. Great scars marked the land, blackened craters where orbital strikes had fallen. Fires spread through forests that once glowed with bioluminescent trees. Over the capital, vast Karash warships hung like vultures, their hulls jagged and bristling with weapons. Elias clenched his fists. He had seen occupied worlds before, but each time it gnawed at something raw inside him. Easy, he muttered to himself. You're one man, just one man. He adjusted the ship's trajectory, following the last coordinates buried in the signal. His scanners crackled. Dozens of contacts lit up his display. Karash patrol ships, running tight formations, searching for survivors, for troublemakers. He was both. Stay low, stay quiet. Elias shut down all unnecessary systems. The Black Star dropped into the planet's upper atmosphere, streaking. Across storm clouds like a falling ember dot, the radio hissed. A voice cut through, deep, guttural, laced with arrogance. Unidentified craft. This is Warlord Karask, commander of the Ninth Conquest. You are entering restricted space. Power down. Your vessel and prepare to be boarded. Elias's blood ran cold. How the hell had they locked onto him so fast? He flicked switches, scrambling comes. Not today. He muttered. But the Karash weren't bluffing. His scanners lit up again, 3 interceptors breaking formation. Arrowing toward his position, the warlord's voice came again, this time mocking. We received your little beacon, Ilari filth. Did you think we would not notice? You call for help, and what answers? A rusted shell, carrying one of the ancient demons. Perfect. Kalan, the word demon made Elias's stomach knot. They knew. Yeah, he growled, gripping the yoke. Guess the bedtime stories were true. The interceptors fired. Bolts of plasma tore through the clouds, searing past his hull. The Black Star shook violently as one clipped the stabilizer. Warnings screamed across the console. Hold together, girl, Elias whispered. He yanked the yoke, plunging into the storm. Lightning flashed around him, illuminating jagged canyons below. The interceptors stayed close, relentless, his weapons. Systems were ancient, barely functional. A single pulse cannon, an unreliable missile rack. Against 3 modern warships. It was suicide, but Elias had never been good at playing fair. He dropped low, skimming the canyon floor. The enemy followed, firing blindly through the storm. Dust and shards of crystal exploded around him. 2. Close for comfort. He flipped a switch, overloading the secondary reactor. The Black Star howled as its engines screamed beyond redline. The ship leapt forward, forcing the interceptors to scatter. One clipped a canyon wall, spiraling in 2. Fire. 2 left. Elias hissed out another bolt of plasma ripped through his port wing. Systems went dark. He smelled smoke. The ship was dying. Fine, he snarled, teeth clenched. We'll do this the hard way. He twisted hard, climbing up the canyon wall. The interceptors chased, one pulling ahead. Elias armed his last. Missile locked onto the lead craft and fired. The missile screamed through the storm. The interceptor veered too late. A fireball lit the sky, raining metal. The last enemy ship broke off, but Elias had no time to breathe. His engines sputtered, alarms blaring. Come on, girl. Just a little further. The reactor blew. The Black Star plummeted, trailing smoke and fire, tearing through clouds toward the crystal plains below. Elias fought the controls, trying to slow descent. Nothing worked. The ground rushed up to meet him. He closed his eyes. Not yet, he whispered. The ship slammed into the earth. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Everything went black. Asterisk. The first contact the storm had cleared by dawn. Sunlight spilled across the crystal plains, turning shattered spires into jagged shards of light. Smoke still curled from the canyon floor, where the Black Star had torn a burning scar into the earth. Alari scouts moved carefully among the wreckage. Their feathered crests twitched nervously, their slim hands gripping spears tipped with plasma charges. The stories they had grown up with haunted every step. Humans. Monsters from the old legends. Blood drinkers, war-born, beasts that had once defied entire empires and walked away laughing. Some said they had burned their own homeworld, just to spite their enemies. Others said they had vanished into exile, never to return. And yet here one lay, broken and still, half buried in the twisted shell of his ship. Counselor Shale pushed forward, ignoring the warnings of her guards. Her feathers were singed, her robes torn from the weeks of siege, but her eyes blazed with a stubborn light. She stared down at the human. He looked smaller than she imagined. Not the towering nightmare of the stories, but scarred, gaunt, his face lined with exhaustion. His armor was battered, his hands bloodied from the crash. Is he alive? One scout whispered. Shael knelt, her hands trembling as she brushed wreckage from his chest. His chest rose and fell, shallow, weak, but alive. He came, she whispered. One of the guards hissed. Better to end him now. Before he wakes, before he shows us what he is. Shale's gaze snapped to him. He came when no one else would. You would kill the only one who answered? The guard lowered his eyes. Ashamed. Shae. El pressed her ear to the human's lips. A faint sound escaped them. Words rough and broken. Still breathing, her eyes widened. He was awake. Elias's eyes flickered open. Vision blurred. He saw faces, avian features, crests of feathers, wide alien eyes filled with fear and awe. His hand instinctively went for the sidearm strapped to his thigh. The Alari tensed, spears leveled at his throat. Wait! Shale cried, spreading her wings protectively. He is not our enemy. Elias coughed, tasting blood. His voice rasped. Depends. Who's asking? Shale's heart pounded. The stories hadn't lied. There was iron in his words, fire even when he lay broken. "I am Counselor Shale of the Alari," she said, forcing strength into her voice. "We sent the plea. You heard us." Elias blinked, trying to focus. Memories rushed back: the signal, the battle, the crash. His ribs screamed with every breath, but his eyes sharpened. "You're the ones begging for help." Shale nodded. "Yes, and you came. Why?" He gave a dry, bitter laugh. "Somebody had to." The scouts exchanged uneasy looks. Before Shale could answer, a new sound tore through the skies. Engines. The guards panicked. "Karash patrols. They found us." Elias tried to push himself up. Pain lanced through his chest. Shale caught his arm, steadying him. "You cannot fight," she said urgently. Elias gritted his teeth, forcing his body upright anyway. "Lady, fighting is the only thing I do." The first Karash gunship broke. Through the clouds, black and jagged, hovering like a predator over prey. Troops leapt from its sides, hulking figures, clad in armor of spines and metal. Their faces were hidden behind cruel masks, their weapons glowing with plasma. The Alari scouts faltered. Against Karash soldiers, they were nothing but feathers in the wind. The warlord's voice boomed from the ship's speakers, mocking and cruel. "There he is, the ancient beast, the monster of myths, alive." Elias raised his head, blood dripping from a cut across his brow. The warlord continued, voice thick with amusement. "Do you think he will save you, Featherkin? He cannot even stand. He is nothing but ash, like his people." The Karash soldiers advanced, weapons trained on the wreckage. Shale trembled. Her guards held their ground, but she knew they would be slaughtered. Elias's hand found his sidearm. His fingers shook, but his eyes burned. "Lady," he said, voice low and steady. "Get your people back." Shale's feathers flared in protest. "You cannot fight them alone." He smiled faintly. "Watch me." He staggered forward, broken ribs grinding, body screaming. He raised the pistol with both hands. The first Karash soldier sneered behind his mask. Stepping closer, Elias fired. The shot burned straight through the alien's visor. The soldier collapsed with a howl, smoke pouring from the hole in his skull. The battlefield froze. The Alari gasped. The Karash roared in fury. And Elias Voss, bloody, broken, half-dead, stood tall, defiant as the legends promised. "Come on, then," he growled, raising his pistol again. "Let's see if the stories are true." The Karash charged. The plains erupted into fire. Asterisk the trap tightens. The battle on the crystal plains lasted only minutes, but to Elias, every heartbeat stretched into eternity. His pistol barked until it clicked empty, each shot precise, deliberate, fueled by stubborn rage. The Ilari scouts rallied behind him, their plasma-tipped spears lancing into Karash soldiers. Shale stood unflinching, calling orders with a voice that refused to break. But for every soldier that fell, two more poured from the gunship. Elias ducked behind the shattered hull of the Black Star, yanking free a rifle from the wreckage, an old human weapon, patched and unreliable, but his hands remembered its weight. He fired, the recoil jarring his already broken ribs. The Karash pressed harder, forcing the Alari back. Their warlord's voice thundered through the gunship speakers. "Do not kill him. Wound him, break him. A galaxy will watch as their nightmare crawls." Elias spat blood onto the dirt. "You'll have to do better than that." But inside, his body screamed for rest. His vision blurred, every breath like knives. He couldn't hold forever. Then the sky cracked open. Another Alari craft swooped. Low, its hull battered, its engines sputtering, but its weapons blazing. Plasma bolts tore through the Karash formation, scattering soldiers. The pilot's voice rang through Shale's cums. "Counselor, get them aboard now." Shale seized Elias's arm. "Move." He stumbled, half carried by her, while the scouts laid down covering fire. The Ilari craft hovered just above the wreckage, its ramp lowering. Soldiers scrambled after them, but Elias turned at the threshold, lifting his rifle one last time. He fired into the gunship's engine. The Karash craft belched fire and crashed into the plain, taking dozens of soldiers with it. The Ilari transport roared skyward, leaving smoke and bodies below. The city of Varen spread before them, once a jewel of crystal towers and sky bridges. Now it lay scarred and dim, its great spires shattered, its people huddled in ruins. As the transport descended, Elias felt every eye on him. Whispers followed him down the ramp. It's a human. The monster came. Will he kill us too? Children peeked from behind their mother's wings, staring at the scarred stranger. Elders shook their heads, muttering prayers. Shale led him through the broken avenues, her presence shielding him from fearful gazes. They fear you, she admitted quietly. Elias's voice was rough. Not the first time. Inside the council chamber, what remained of Ilari leadership awaited. The room smelled of smoke and fatigue. Feathers dulled, robes torn, eyes hollow from too many sleepless nights. An elder stepped forward, his crest sharp with hostility. You brought this into our last sanctuary? Shale bristled. He is the one who answered. He is the one who will doom us. The elder snapped. The Karash already spread their lies. They call him a beast, a terror, a relic of war. And now our people see him here and believe it. Elias leaned against the wall, exhausted, but his eyes cut through the room. They'll believe whatever the Karash want, unless you show them something else. The elder sneered. And what would you show them? Fire? Death? That is all your kind is known for. Then maybe, Elias said softly, it's time they learn we're known for more. The chamber fell silent. But outside, the Karash were already moving. From the shadow of their warship, propaganda drones buzzed into the skies, broadcasting across Varen. Giant hollow screens flickered to life above the streets, filled with the warlord's snarling visage. People of Aresh, behold your savior. The human, the butcher, the ancient curse. He does not come to save you. He comes to finish what his kind began. The screens showed distorted images of Elias, firing weapons, blood on his face, soldiers falling before him, twisted into something monstrous. The humans burned their own world. They will burn yours. Surrender him to us, and the Karash will grant you mercy. The streets erupted in fear and confusion. Some shouted for hope, others for surrender. The fragile unity of the Ilari cracked. Inside the council chamber, the walls shook with the noise of their people's unrest. The elder turned on Shale. Do you see? Already he brings ruin. If we hand him over, perhaps we can save ourselves. Shale's feathers flared in fury. You would hand over the only one who came to help us? To them? The elder's voice rose, desperate. Better one human than an entire people. Elias pushed himself away from the wall, his gaze heavy. I've heard this before. You think giving me up will save you? It won't. They don't want peace. They want you gone. Shale looked between him and the council, her heart pounding. She knew he was right, but fear was a powerful weapon, and the Karash had struck deep. Outside, chants grew louder. Surrender the human. Save Aresh. The walls trembled. Elias turned to Shale. You have a choice. Trust me, or trust the ones who want you on your knees. Shale closed her eyes, the weight of her people on her shoulders. When she opened them, her voice was steady. We will not betray you. The chamber erupted in chaos. And above the city, the warlord smiled. His trap had worked. The people were tearing themselves apart. All he had to do was watch them fall. Asterisk fire and mercy. The streets of Viren burned. It began with shouting crowds, whipped into panic by the Karash's lies. Then came fists, then stones, then fire. Ileri fought Ileri, neighbor against neighbor, torn between fear of the human and hatred of their conquerors. Elias stood on the balcony of the council tower, watching chaos spread through the crystal avenues. His chest ached with every breath, his ribs bound tight beneath scavenged bandages. He felt the weight of it pressing down, the desperation, the fear, the centuries-old legends now twisted against him. He had seen this before. Occupied worlds turned against themselves. Lies sharper than blades. He knew where it led, streets. Red with blood, cities that never rose again. He turned to Shale. If we don't stop this, you'll lose the city before the Karash even fire a shot. Shale's feathers trembled. But how? Our people? They don't trust you. Then we'll give them a reason to. They moved fast. Elias led Shale and a handful of loyal scouts into the Undercity, through tunnels carved of glowing stone. Each step sent pain lancing through his ribs, but he forced it down. Pain could wait. Lives could not. The beacons had to be the priority. The Karash wouldn't waste time with riots. They'd marked the city for destruction. At last they found. The first beacon, a fist-sized device hidden among shattered ruins, pulsing with a red glow. Elias knelt, inspecting it. His hands moved with practiced calm, pulling wires, tracing circuits. Shale crouched beside him, eyes wide. "Can you disarm it?" he grunted. "Not disarm. Redirect." Her crest flicked in confusion. Redirect? Elias smiled grimly. "Let them think they've won. We'll feed their signal false targets." Minutes later, the beacon blinked green. Elias handed it to Shale. "Place it near the old barracks. Empty buildings. When they fire, they'll waste. Their shot." Her eyes widened with awe. You turned their own weapon against them. "Adapt or die," Elias muttered. They moved beacon to beacon, Elias dismantling, rewiring, rerouting. Each time, Shale marveled at his skill, not just his violence, but the strange creativity woven into his hands. But the Karash were not blind. Patrols prowled the alleys. At one beacon site, they were caught. A squad of Karash soldiers cornered them, blades gleaming. Shale's scouts raised weapons, but Elias stepped forward. "Stay behind me." He hurled a smoke charge, an improvised canister rigged from scraps of his wrecked ship. Thick clouds enveloped the street. Through the haze, Elias moved like a shadow, striking with brutal efficiency. A blade wrenched from one soldier. A rifle turned against another. When the smoke cleared, the soldiers lay broken. Shale's chest heaved. She had seen warriors before, but not like this. Humans didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like storms. Yet when it was over, Elias knelt beside one wounded Karash still gasping. Shale stiffened, expecting a finishing blow. Instead, Elias pressed a med injector to the soldier's chest. The alien coughed, confused, staring at the man who had spared him. Shale whispered, stunned. "Why?" Elias looked at her, eyes shadowed with old ghosts. "Because mercy's the only thing that scares them more than fire." Hours later, they stood atop a tower, overlooking the city. Smoke still curled from riots below, but the worst had passed. The false beacons glowed green in the distance. Then the sky lit up from orbit. Karash warships unleashed their cannons. Shale flinched, but Elias's jaw tightened. Bolts of fire rained down, striking the empty barracks, the abandoned plazas, the husks Elias had marked. Explosions rocked the city, but no innocent screamed. The people watched in awe as fire consumed. Emptiness, their homes untouched. A murmur spread through the streets. Not fear, not suspicion. Hope. Shale turned to Elias, her feathers glowing in the firelight. "They see it. You saved them. They will remember. Elias leaned on the railing, exhausted. Don't thank me yet. The warlord won't take this lightly. He'll come himself next time. Shale's gaze hardened. Then let him come. He will see that we are not alone. But in the shadows, betrayal stirred. The elder who had once demanded Elias's surrender knelt before a hidden holla, the warlord's, visage sneering above him. You were right, the elder hissed. They trust the human now. They rally behind him. The warlord's eyes gleamed. Then you will open the gates. Bring me the human, and I will spare your people. Fail, and I will make your city ash. The elder's feathers drooped. He nodded. Betrayal was set. Asterisk the breaking point night fell heavy over Varen. Fires smoldered in the ruins, and the people whispered in the streets. For the first time in weeks, those whispers were not only of fear, they were of defiance, of the human who had turned fire into salvation. Elias sat in the council tower, armor stripped away, ribs bound tight. His hands trembled as he tried to clean his rifle. He was running on fumes, kept alive by grit and painkillers. Shale entered quietly, her feathers brushed clean, her eyes bright with something he hadn't seen before. Hope. They speak of you in the streets, she said softly. Not as a monster, as a protector. Elias gave a dry laugh. That's new. You gave them back their will to fight. His gaze dropped to the rifle in his lap. Then I'd better make it count. At dawn, the trap was sprung. The elder who had betrayed them opened the western gates, his hands shaking as he deactivated the shields. To the people, he told lies of diplomacy, of mercy from the warlord. But what entered was no delegation. It was an army. Karash. War beasts poured into the city, hulking creatures, clad in spiked armor, their roars shaking the crystal. Towers. Behind them marched soldiers in endless ranks, weapons blazing. At their head, in a throne of iron carried on the shoulders of slaves, came the warlord himself. Khar. He was massive, clad in armor of jagged black metal, his mask shaped like a beast's skull. His voice thundered across the city. People of Aresh, your savior is here, the human you worship. Deliver him to me, and I will spare you. The crowds trembled. Some faltered, but others shouted back, voices rising with defiance. He saved us. We stand with him. We will not bow, the warlord laughed. A deep, terrible sound. Then burn with him. His army surged forward. The battle for Varen erupted. Crystal towers shattered as plasma fire tore through them. Bridges collapsed into rivers of glowing stone. Civilians fled into tunnels, while Ilari fighters clashed desperately with the Karash. Elias fought in the streets, rifle barking, grenades booming. His body screamed with every motion, but rage carried him. Each Karash that fell bought another heartbeat for the people behind him. Shale fought at his side, spear flashing with deadly precision. She had never killed before, but tonight her hands were steady. For every soldier who came close to Elias, she struck them down, but the tide was endless. A blast ripped through a wall, throwing Elias into rubble. His vision went dark for a moment, and when it cleared, he saw the warlord himself striding into the square. Karask towered above, his soldiers parting before him. He pointed a massive blade at Elias. So this is humanity's fury, a broken relic. You will crawl before me. Elias spat blood and forced himself upright, rifle raised. Come find out. The warlord charged. Their clash shook the square. Elias fired point blank, bullets sparking off Karask's armor. The warlord's blade came down like a falling mountain. Elias rolled, pain lancing through broken ribs, firing. Again and again, but Karask was stronger, faster. Each blow forced Elias back, each strike tearing chunks from the ruins around them. At last, The blade caught him. It sliced across his chest, tearing through armor, knocking him to the ground. He gasped, vision swimming, blood pooling beneath him. Karask loomed above, blade raised for the killing stroke. Behold, people of Aresh. The human dies like the rest, weak, broken, ashes in the wind. Shal screamed. She hurled herself forward, wings flaring, her spear flashing in the firelight. She struck Karask's arm, driving the blade aside. The warlord roared in fury, backhanding her with bone-crushing force. Shale hit the ground hard, blood spilling from her beak. Elias's eyes went wide. He tried to rise, but his body wouldn't obey. No, he whispered. Shale turned her head weakly, her eyes meeting his. Her voice was faint, trembling, but unbroken. Elias, they believe in you. Don't let him take that away. Her hand brushed his. Then her eyes closed. Something inside Elias snapped. The world blurred. The pain, the blood, the weakness, all of it drowned in a white-hot storm. He heard only the echo of Shale's last words. He forced himself to his feet, roaring in defiance. Karask froze for the first time, staring at the human who refused to die. And then Elias charged. The reckoning the square burned with fire and screams. The air shimmered from heat and blood. Elias Voss stood in the heart of it, chest torn open, blood dripping down his side. He should have been dead, any sane man would have been. But his eyes blazed with something greater than life. Fury. The warlord Karask lowered his blade, confusion flickering beneath the mask. No enemy had ever stood after such wounds. Elias spat blood and raised his rifle. You're right about one thing. Karask tilted his head. We are dangerous. The rifle barked. Bullets slammed into Karask's chest, staggering him. The warlord roared and charged, swinging his blade in a wide arc. Elias ducked, the edge shearing stone, and countered with a blast from his sidearm straight into the warlord's mask. The iron skull cracked, exposing one eye burning with hate that the people of Varen watched from shattered windows, from rubble-strewn alleys. They saw a human, broken and bleeding, defying a warlord who had crushed empires. And for the first time, they believed the legends were not curses, but hope. The duel raged across the square. Elias fought like a storm, every move desperate, yet precise. He used rubble as cover, smoke as weapon, fire as shield. He improvised, adapted, twisted every weakness into strength. But Karask was relentless. His blade carved scars into the earth, each strike closer than the last. At last, the warlord slammed Elias into the ruins of a tower, his blade pressing against the human's throat. Enough. You are no god, no monster, just a dying man. Elias's lips curled into a bloodied grin. Yeah, but a man's enough. With his free hand, he slammed a grenade into Karask's chest plate and rolled aside. The explosion ripped through the warlord's armor, throwing him back in a storm of fire and shrapnel. The crowd gasped. Elias staggered to his feet, body failing, vision dim. He picked up the fallen warlord's blade, massive, heavy, meant for hands stronger than his. He raised it with both arms, every muscle screaming. Karask rose too, half his. Armor shredded, his face exposed, a scarred, furious, burning with hate. The two locked eyes, and Elias roared as he brought the blade down. The strike split the warlord from shoulder to chest. Karask's roar choked into silence as he collapsed, the ground shaking with his fall. The square went still. For one heartbeat, the city held its breath. Then the Alari erupted in a cry that shook the heavens. Victory. But Elias was falling. The blade slipped from his hands. His knees buckled. He collapsed beside Shale's motionless body. He pressed a bloodied hand to her chest, whispering hoarsely, Come on, don't leave me now. A faint tremor stirred beneath his fingers. Eyes fluttered open. Weak, dazed, but alive. She smiled faintly. You didn't let him take it away. Elias's vision blurred with relief. For the first time in years, he let himself smile. Above the planet, the Karash fleet trembled. Their warlord was dead. Their soldiers rooted. But more than fear spread among them. Whispers, legends, stories made real again. The humans. They still lived. They still fought. And they were still the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. The Karash ships pulled back, retreating into the void. Days later, as the city rebuilt, Elias stood at the edge of the plains, his chest bound in. Fresh bandages. The Black Star lay in ruins, beyond repair. Shale approached, still weak but walking. She stood beside him, feathers catching the sunlight. You saved us, she said simply. Elias shook his head. No, you saved yourselves. I just reminded you how. She tilted her head. Will you stay? He was silent a long moment. His eyes turned skyward, where the stars waited. They know now, he said quietly. They'll come looking. Not just for me, for all of us. Shale's feathers rippled. Then perhaps it is time the galaxy remembers. Dangerous, yes, but not monsters, not curses, allies. Elias gave a weary smile. We'll see. He looked to the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity's exiles still waited. Maybe broken, maybe scattered, but alive. And now the galaxy knew. The truth. When the desperate cried for help, humanity would come. Epilogue. In the dark corridors of space, whispers spread. The Karash had been defeated. The Ilari saved. By humans. World by world, the stories grew. Some spoke in awe, others in fear, but all agreed on one thing. The most dangerous beings in the galaxy had returned, and they were watching. Asterisk.